In the story of One Piece, there are a few characters that we have seen barely anything from, but out of all of them, there is one that everybody has their interest in, and he is somebody that is closely connected to Luffy. Although he hasn't been very present in Luffy's life, there is something that those two share together that is stronger than anything out there, and that is blood. And so by now, I'm assuming you guys have already figured out who I'm talking about. I mean, he's in the title and thumbnail, so why not stop beating around the bush? In this video, I'm going to be going over why Monkey D. Dragon will be the most important character in the final saga, and why his inclusion may be the most important thing we've seen in One Piece overall. But before I get into the video, if you guys like content like this, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe, as I do cover content like this all the time. And look, it's a win-win. You guys show support and I give it back to you in videos. Whether it's One Piece, other animes, or just fiction in general, in due time I'll go there, so be there when I go there. But I feel like that's enough of my rambling. Let's get into the video and talk about why Monkey D. Dragon is the most important character in the One Piece final saga. Okay, so to begin the video, I want to start off with his backstory. Although we don't have a lot about it, we do have enough to where we can actually talk about it. And I really want to talk about how his time in the Marines may have shaped him into the man he is today. Now, as we know, Dragon's a very strong sense of justice, and I feel like at a young age he was enlisted into the Marines due to his connections with Garp and whatnot. And due to him being on the battlefield at such a young age, I felt like he got to see things, and when he saw those things that he didn't like about the Marines, that's when he took himself out of the Marines and decided to do his own thing. But while he was in the Marines, I do believe it was a build-up of things that made him go, no, I gotta go, instead of him just seeing one thing and just saying, I gotta bounce. As we know, Dragon's whole revolutionary army is targeted at the world government itself and not the Marines. So what I do believe is that he saw a celestial dragon, or many celestial dragons, doing heinous things and was like, no, this isn't it. Because if it was something the Marines did, I think he would target it more at the Marines, but it's at the world government, and as we know, the world government do support the celestial dragons. And so I could see Dragon going around freeing slaves like how Fujitora would, and those two are two people that have a lot in common that I don't think people have picked up on just yet. I know a few people have, but this is something I want to delve into heavily in this video. I do believe while Dragon was enlisted in the Marines, I think he was going around saving people, because I could just imagine him doing that and going against whatever his superiors told him to, because that's just the type of person he is. And because of that, I can see somebody who is his age and was probably enlisted in the Marines at that time having a problem with him. And as we know today, Fujitora has a problem with this person as well, and I think by now you guys should know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Sakazuki. During the Paramount War, people were able to pick up on the fact that Sakazuki rarely referred to Luffy as Luffy. He referred to him as Dragon's son, meaning that there had to be some sort of friction between them. Now, it could be a case of that he never really cared about Luffy's name, so he just kept calling him by Dragon's son, since he knows Dragon and it's just a better way to call him Dragon's son. But because of the age, and because Dragon was originally in the Marines, I do believe that there is a history there that I really want to talk about and delve into. Now, we don't know where his hatred of pirates originally spawned, but I do believe it was probably as a child. So when he did enlist in the Marines, I do believe that when he saw Dragon going around doing certain things that he didn't like, and when he left the Marines, I do believe that did sow a little bit of hatred in Sakazuki's heart. And I don't mean a little bit, I mean a lot. Like, he seems like he does hate Dragon a little bit. And in the community, I've seen many theories out there saying that Dragon and Sakazuki could have been friends, and I do believe that is the case, as I do see that Dragon was probably close with Sakazuki since he did have a strong sense of justice. I do believe that Dragon may have seen Sakazuki's more extreme side and been like, okay, you may need to chill out. But I do believe that they could have been close, and with Dragon leaving the Marines, I do believe that Sakazuki saw him as a betrayer, and that is why he's probably harsh on people that like to flee from battle and whatnot. I feel like what makes their possible past friendship so interesting is their ideologies and how they clash. And we've already seen it with Fujitora, and Dragon, in my opinion, is probably someone that's more harsh on his ideals than Fujitora. I know that Fujitora is very harsh on him, but I see Dragon as somebody that sees himself as a liberator. And that is where I want to go next with this video and talk about how Dragon's way of justice is more liberation, and how, unlike Luffy, it's not natural to where he just does it. I feel like it's something that he actively does and acts upon it. Now, I do believe that Dragon is a natural liberator, but not in the sense of where Luffy is a natural liberator, where he just goes around and does it because that's just what he wants to do. I feel like Dragon actively does it because he sees what's wrong in the world, and then he's like, no, I have to go out and do it everywhere I go. And that is the main difference in the liberation. Everything else you could say is the exact same, as Dragon gets annoyed the exact same way Luffy gets annoyed when he hears something bad happening in the country he's in. It's because of these key qualities why I'm so interested and I'm gonna explore why them coming together is going to be such a massive thing and why Dragon is gonna be the key point of everything. Another thing they do share is their way of influencing people and how they're able to get people supporting them and getting them behind their cause. Ivankov directly states this in Marineford, but obviously there are other examples that we can use with just Dragon having a whole army across the world and Luffy going around and doing whatever he wants and uplifting the spirits of the people in the country he's on. And even down to the individual people like Sabo, Koala, Kuma and just other people in general. Dragon has a way of influencing people the exact same way Luffy does, and I feel like a lot of people do overlook this. Sabo confided in Dragon, and when bad things did happen, Dragon appeared to save him and then built him up himself. After being in prison, Kuma joined Dragon after he saved him, and stuff like this is what was very reminiscent of Luffy to me. Once again, Dragon and Luffy aren't the exact same characters, and how they react to certain situations are very different. Best example of this is the Ginny situation. A lot of people look at this situation and think that Dragon did this because he doesn't care about her. No, he did care about her. He cares about her a lot actually. But the whole thing around her being captured and whatnot, Dragon understands that he's building an army and he can't rush in for everybody that's captured. Now don't get it twisted, Dragon would rush in for somebody like Ginny, but Dragon understands that if he does rush in for her, he's gonna have to do that for all of his commanders and all of his soldiers, and that's something that a building army just cannot do. And that is why he allowed Kuma to go off and do whatever he wanted, because Dragon understands what's going on. If Dragon was truly like cold-hearted and didn't want to help out, he would have told Kuma to sit down and not go, but he said no, go, he'd do whatever you want. And I just wanted to cover the situation because I do understand that in the community this is a very misunderstood situation and it is something that Dragon just couldn't help. I do believe that at his core, I do think Dragon is probably softer than Luffy and Garp, mainly because we see how he reacts to certain situations. A lot of people do brush off the way he does react to situations, but when you look at how he reacted to Ohara and you're like, okay, this is somebody that truly cares. Although he didn't know all of them like that, it was something that hurt him deeply and he was like, no, I cannot let this go on anymore. And that is what sparks the Revolutionary Army. Although he did have like a little freedom fighter corps going on, he then had to advance it into a Revolutionary Army after the Ohara incident. Now, in my opinion, I do believe that Dragon would rush in for somebody like Sabo even if he was still building his army, because that is Sabo. Like, he would rush in for Sabo. I do think he would rush in for Luffy as well, as Ivankov does say. Everybody has exceptions to their rules and Dragon is no different. And with that being said, I really want to circle back around to his time on the Marines, but I want to focus on a conversation that he had with Ivankov and Kuma and how when they talked about it, Ivankov says something that's very interesting. Ivankov says that the Marines and the Rebels are aiming for the exact same thing, but Dragon's like, no, their justice that they had there wasn't what I was seeking, so obviously I made the Revolutionary Army. And even with this short little dialogue, I do believe it does back up what I was saying before about Dragon seeing something that the Celestial Dragons were doing and the Marines just turned a blind eye to it, and that's why he was like, no, I can't stay there. And many people do believe that it was because of God Valley that this happened. Now, this could be a very plausible thing, as Dragon was probably of age to go to God Valley. He is Garp's son, so they would allow him to go since Garp's going. And it does line up with what I said in the Horrors of One Piece video. Because of what was going on the island and all the bad things that was happening, even while they was just fighting, I do believe that Dragon probably saw something on there and was like, nah. And I do believe that Dragon's past with the Marines will be important in the future, and that is something I want to get into right now. As I mentioned earlier, Dragon has a lot of similarities to Fujitora, and right now Fujitora seems to be a free agent. Although he's not entirely a free agent, he's not allowed to go back to any Marine bases, so he's just floating around right now. And with Karasu, Morley and all the other people on the island seeing what Fujitora was doing, I wouldn't be surprised if they were to talk to Fujitora and probably even convince him, as Fujitora seems to be very upset with what's going on. At the end of Dressrosa, Fujitora asked one of his vice admirals if he knew about all the bad things that was going on in the world government, and he didn't respond, and that was all Fujitora needed to know. Fujitora is in the Marines to change how dark the world is. He isn't in the Marines just to be a Marine, he's there to change things. And I believe if he heard Dragon's story and was able to see what Dragon's actually doing, I do believe that he would join the revolutionaries. And I believe many who want to change the Marines the exact same way he does will join the revolutionaries in due time, as that is something that they want to see. They want to see the world change, so they're going to join the revolutionaries so they can see that happen. And this is one of the key reasons why I do believe he is going to be the greater change in the world. And yes, Luffy will be at the forefront of it, but I do believe that Dragon will be his main support and probably the driving force behind everything, as Dragon knows what needs to be done and changed. Dragon knows that the Marines are meant to be lapdogs for the Celestial Dragons. They're meant to be the ones protecting the people, not listening to whatever those greedy people want them to do. That is literally why the Revolutionary Army exists, and that is why I do believe that Dragon is going to be the one to take over and try to change everything. He wants to make everything more free for people to do and make sure that the Marines are doing the job they're supposed to do, and the world government are actually trying to help the people, not be greedy and take everything for themselves and just destroy the world. Already in the final saga, Dragon has taken that first step in weakening the Celestial Dragons as a whole, and with him knowing that Emu does exist, I think this gives him an end goal, and I feel like he knows what he has to do. Dragon is going to be the king piece here because he knows everything that has to go on, and that's why he's going to move his pieces accordingly. Right now, every One Piece country is at the edge of rebellion or they've already rebelled, and all they really need to do to go over that edge is for Dragon to say, "I've got your back, I am here." Although he's had to watch people like Ginny and Kuma suffer, as he said to Kuma, the revolution is just starting, and as we can see in the story, it definitely is. With Sabo now being called the Flame Emperor, it's also now showing us how Dragon can move his pieces accordingly. Although that was a massive shock and he didn't expect it to go that way, it's something that happened and it's able to boost his agenda even further. Now Dragon is sitting at a spot where he has the world in his palm technically. Although things can go wrong, everything that needs to go right for him is going right, and in due time the world is gonna come around to the revolutionaries, and people even like Kobe or just people in the Marines that want to make a change are going to go to Dragon. I don't believe they'll join the revolutionaries, but I do believe that they will start something in the Marines to where it's like even the Marines are going up against the world government. And with him and Luffy, I don't know if Luffy is directly going to join him or join up with him, but I do believe that there's going to be some sort of mutual goal that Luffy understands that, yeah, I do need to work with my dad here, and this is when they're going to overturn the world government. And this is why I do believe that Dragon right now is probably the most important person in the One Piece verse. Soon the Marines will start to fall apart and they'll come to him. The people in the world are going to him already, and the world government, they're weakening as the day goes by. The propaganda's going to hell. They've lost a Gorosei member, they've technically lost a Holy Knight, and they've lost 2 main CP0 members. There are a lot of things that they're losing that they kind of need right now. Yes, I do believe that Luffy is going to be extremely important. He's the main character, but I do believe that Dragon is going to be that person to where it's like when the world is going to rebuild after Luffy does his thing, and even up to that point, Dragon is going to be among the key people in those moments. Aside from Poe and newspaper Morgan, Dragon is probably among the only people to know that Emu exists, and if Dragon really wanted to, he could just release that Emu exists, and that would shatter the world government's propaganda and bring the world on his side. That's why I say right now he is the king piece. Although many other people do have pieces that he does have, he has all the knowledge that he kind of needs, and he can do what he wants with it. The last thing I want to touch on is how Dragon is going to rebuild the One Piece world, as I do believe a lot of people think that he's going to die in the final war, and I do not believe that. I do believe that Dragon is going to rebuild the world. After everything is said and done, I do believe that Dragon is going to rebuild everything from the ground up. I think he's going to destroy all the sort of like class things that the world has, and he's going to start it from the ground up and do it that way. The Navy will become what they're supposed to be, people with a good sense of justice and people that will protect the people, and not an army with a bad sense of justice who abuse their powers. The exact same thing could be said about everything else like CP0 and the Holy Knights and whatnot. They'll be used in a good way and not a negative way. And so with Dragon in charge, I do believe that most of the negative things in the world will disappear. Now, not all of it, because it doesn't matter where you go, bad things lie wherever you go, but I do believe that the majority of it will disappear. With that being said, I want to do a massive recap. Right now, Dragon is probably the most dangerous person in the world for the world government, as he does have a lot of knowledge that they do not want him to know, and on top of that, he does have the power to influence people, and the world is very volatile right now. And so with all these things mixing together and matching, it makes Dragon one of the worst people for the world government to be dealing with right now, as he does have all the chips in his favor. And with him combining with Luffy to then dethrone the world government and change the world, I do believe that after everything is said and done, he will rebuild the whole One Piece society and make it somewhere where you can be happy and peaceful, and the horrors will no longer exist. But with that being said, that's the end of the video. I know I had fun making this because Dragon is one of my favorite characters, and although I didn't really know what to say in the beginning, I was like, you know what, let me just go over Dragon as a character first and like break down a few of the misconceptions that people do have about his character, because I do see a lot of people misconstruing who Dragon really is and just like not really getting what Dragon is. I say what Dragon is, but you know what I'm trying to say. They misconstrue, just misunderstand who Dragon is, so I just wanted to break that down really quickly and possibly get into like a few like theories with him and Sakazuki and how Fujitoro can come over and whatnot. But yeah, that was just a few things I wanted to get into before going into my main point. But yeah, do you agree with what I said or do you disagree? Do you believe that Dragon is possibly one of the more dangerous people in the One Piece verse, or do you believe that nah, there's somebody else? Now I'm excluding Luffy because Luffy is the obvious answer. I'm bringing in Dragon as the king piece because, as I said before, he is somebody with basically all the chips in the world. He does have knowledge about all these different secret weapons and whatnot. That's his secret weapons, ancient weapons, and everything else in the One Piece verse. But yeah, I'm really tired because I had to wait really late to record this because I was doing stuff all day. So until next time, I love you all and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.